Are you preparing for interviews but you're overwhelmed by database concept? Don't worry, I have covered you all in this video. In this video, I'm going to break down all the important topics that are needed and every interviewer likes to ask during the interview. Also at the same time, I will be giving you some bonus questions at the end of each topic. So I highly recommend you to stay till the end so that you can get best out of it. I am Pramod Bhosle, working in TCS for digital profiles since 2 years. Just in case if you are new to our channel, do subscribe to channel for more such informative videos and get your interviews looks like more easier. Now without any further delay, let's proceed. Normalizations and database schema. Now let's talk about the database normalization. Normalization is one of the biggest topics whenever it comes to the database, and most interestingly, every interviewer likes to ask the questions on a topic of normalization. So make sure that you are thoroughly prepared with topic of normalization. In this topic, you have to be really good in subtopics like 1NF, 2NF, 3NF and BCNF. Also at the same time, make sure you are familiar with questions like what is normalization, why do we need a normalization, and when to use normalization. Now let's talk about the database schema. Database schema is nothing but designing the database from a given source of data. So make sure you are known that how to design a good database from given set of data. Understand what are the properties that we need to follow while designing the database. What are the attributes that needs to keep in mind. Transactions and ACID properties. Transactions and ACID properties is one of the smallest topics whenever it comes to the database. Of course, there are not much questions from this topic that you need to prepare, but there are certain things that are really famous whenever it comes to the interview. And we all know that ACID properties. So make sure that you understand the ACID properties cleanly and neatly. Understand the meaning of each terminologies like atomicity, consistency, isolations and durability. For your sake of understanding, you can also make sure you know the real life example of each terminologies present in my ACID properties. You can also prepare the questions on these topics like what happens if your transaction gets failed in between, how you can recover your database if my data get lost. Also at the same time, make sure you know certain questions is like what do you mean by checkpoints, what are the log recoveries, etc. SQL in database. Is it possible that you will have a database interview without getting a single questions on SQL? Hell no, because SQL is one of the most important topics whenever it comes to the database section, because they might ask you to write the queries during a time of your interviews. So we have to prepare the SQL so wisely, conceptually and practically. So let's take out which are the most important subtopics whenever it comes to the SQL. Joins. Joins is one of the most important topics in whole SQL. The reason behind this is since it is categorized into many subtopics like left join, right joins, outer join, full join, etc. So make sure you know the difference between all types of joins, when to use left join, when to use right join, etc. Now the question comes, what is the difference between the where clause and having clause? You should know that when to use where clause, when to use having clause. The group by. You should also know that when to use a group by and when not to use a group by. And the most important thing that I will tell you, that is the aggregate functions. What are the different types of aggregate functions? What do you mean by aggregate function, etc. One bonus question I would like to tell you when you are preparing for the SQL queries, that is try writing the SQL queries or practicing the SQL queries. For example, like find the customer with the second highest salary, find the customer with the third highest salary, etc. So here is the bonus tip for the database subject. Since we know that while studying we are mainly focusing on relational database, so be prepared with the questions like what is relational database, why do we need a relational database, when to use a relational database. Also at the same time, be prepared what is the difference between relational database and non-relational database. Most important point to note here is that you can practice the SQL queries on the platforms like Leetcode and GFGs. During a time of interview, try to explain your thought process to the interviewer since it will create a big impact on it. Finally, whenever you get stuck while writing the queries, you can ask for the clarification questions since this showcases your problem solving skills. So I hope that this video has completely helped you to prepare for the database for any interviews. If this video has really helped you, then do subscribe the channel and share this video with your friends who are preparing for the interviews. If you want to know more about interview content, do subscribe the channel. Till then, have a happy coding.